Hello, Mandy Friedman here, licensed professional clinical counselor, clinically certified domestic violence counselor, clinically certified trauma professional level 2, and the creator of SNAP Survivors of Narcissistic and Abusive Personalities, back with my brother Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Mandy, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm looking forward to talking about season 3 of Succession. We're talking about the sharks today.
Mandy, we've used the phrase sharks before to refer to people. It is a wildlife metaphor, which we love those. But what does that mean when someone's a shark in the context of our conversation?
In the context of our conversation, when we say sharks, we're talking about people that are in it for themselves. They don't care who they step on or hurt to get where they're going. Also, it's important to note that sharks live in an ecosystem. And sometimes there are different types of sharks and other creatures that swim among the sharks that benefit from the sharks as well. And you can see how the sharks in Succession are jockeying for position to see who's the top shark, who can outmaneuver someone else, who's the alpha, who's the boss. And they don't have a lot of warmth about them. Sharks also keep moving all the time. They're always sort of scanning and looking for their next kill. They never rest, in other words. And I would say that would be true about the sharks on Succession. They are single-mindedly focused on their own ambitions.
The animal, a shark, is, of course, as you said, it's always moving, because if it stops moving, it can't breathe and it dies. And it only has one mission in life, and that is to eat and kill. So it's a good metaphor for these people that we're talking about.
In other words, they are predators and they have prey. The prey can be each other. The prey can be anything that gets them where they want to go.
Now, when we're talking about sharks, we're not going to be talking about the main characters of the show. For our conversation, this is the people that are in orbit around the family, the folks that are trying to get in. Who are some of the sharks?
One is the President of the United States, a player in the game. And his, I believe, would be Chief of Staff, Michelle Ann. Interestingly and timely, you can see how these billionaires are able to sway the decision-making of the president, how that the president isn't the biggest shark in the room even, and how susceptible the president is to the pressures of corporate leaders. People that have all the money apparently can do whatever they want.
Well, in this season, Logan tries to manipulate the president, and it does not work. And the president kind of becomes a vicious shark against Logan. And so Logan does what he does best when it comes to taking down sharks.
President and Michelle Ann. And then we have the executives that work at Waystar Royco. You have Jerry, Frank, Hugo, Carl, Carolina. And this is, now we have Carrie, the new girlfriend that shows up. And you see that Logan, who is, of course, the top shark, the head shark, he likes to surround himself with these individuals, and it makes him feel more secure when he's able to circle the wagons and call all the other sharks in to delegate to them to protect his interests.
And that happens several times in the series. It does happen this season when we have the Piss Mad episode, where he kind of circles the wagons and we get to see all these sharks in action.
There's a moment where he's saying to them, "I'm stuck in quicksand. My family have disappeared. The world is wobbling here. Does no one understand what the fuck is happening? I'm losing juice. I can't find the right lawyer. The sky is falling in. So when I say something, it fucking happens. We have to act on the world, the fucking world. We have to act." And he's saying this to Hugo, Frank, Carl, and Tom's in the room too, but it's a call to arms. We have to act now. We have to protect ourselves.
Another shark that we're introduced to this season is Mencken, who is running for president. And at the Future Freedom Summit, we get to see what he's all about.
Mencken is clearly an evil dude. He's a Nazi supporter. The people that support him are Nazi-like. Again, a lot of this is very timely that we're talking about it now on this day. February 11th, 2025. So Mencken, you see, is somebody that really should not have a position of power. You can see in his character right away that he's not a good person just by how he talks to people and the things that he brings up. And the fact that Roman really likes him a lot probably is a good red flag to look at, that, you know, if Roman's pushing someone, they're probably not a good person. But yeah, Mencken is a shark that enters the mix because he's hoping to take the seat of the president that Logan chased away.
Yes, we talked about before when the president couldn't get Logan to do what he wanted. Logan couldn't get the president to do what he wanted to do as well. They kind of had a falling out, and that's why the Future Freedom Summit happened, is because they're going to choose themselves a new president. You said Michelle Ann was also one of the sharks. So what kind of role does she play?
She's a gatekeeper to the president. Again, I believe her role would be chief of staff. I could be wrong about that. She's the go-between. You see Jerry and Michelle Ann on the phone together, and Jerry's feeling out the president by feeling out Michelle Ann. And then there's a moment when Michelle Ann is at ATN the studio, and Logan shows up and talks to her. And basically what they're trying to do is negotiate that, hey, the president has been my guy this whole time, Logan is thinking. And now that I'm in trouble, the president isn't having my back. Well, the president is getting ready to run again for a re-election and doesn't want to be associated with sex crimes. So they wind up having an impasse where their goals are no longer aligned. But the goal that Logan isn't thinking about, which is the long-term goal of having power in the White House, because he is frantically worried about what's happening right here, right now. And he wants the president to have his back right here, right now. And in doing so, he kind of throws the baby out with the bathwater, and they start launching negative campaigns through ATN against the president to try to strong arm leverage against the president that he would maybe have Logan's back. But what happens is it causes him to not be able to run again. So now they have to find someone else that they can manipulate, someone that's malleable, that they can use. They want someone in the White House that will do their bidding.
The president in the show is kind of naive. Because, turns out, doesn't matter. He can do whatever he wants and still get elected, it turns out. So, sex crimes and all that, it's fine. We're all cool.
Exactly. As it turns out, none of it mattered.
Now, Mencken doesn't have a bad reputation necessarily as far as things like that. So he's kind of a fresh new shark just entering the situation. Some folks that have been around a lot and some of the perennial sharks on the show are people like Stewie and Sandy, who are on the board, and they want more power. They want a bigger say. They want the CEO position somehow. And so they will do whatever it takes to get it.
So you have Sandy, who would be the father, who has a daughter named Sandy. So we got two Sandys. Sandy, the father, has a stroke and is in a wheelchair, and the daughter, Sandy, is sort of his mouthpiece. And then, of course, we have Stewie, who's friends with Kendall, and they all work together. And you're right. Now, after the whole issue with going public and what they're going to do there, Shiv makes that deal. Don't forget, we got Logan pissed mad, and Shiv makes the deal and pulls Stewie, Sandy, and Sandy into the mix. So now they're on the board, and it seems like it's going to be an okay arrangement for them. But indeed, they are sharks. And even after a stroke, Sandy's dad is still a shark, but you see his daughter sort of coming into her own, sort of like Shiv was coming into her own. It was really Sandy, the daughter, and Shiv who made that deal. The two women are the ones that made that happen. And of course, neither one of them can get any credit for that.
That's very similar to the situation we had with Jerry and Michelle Ann being the go-betweens, right? A couple more of the perennial folks that are always around swimming is that Frank, Hugo, Jerry, and Carl. They get up to all kinds of shenanigans this season.
For example, there's that moment during the shareholder meeting when they're stalling and they push poor Frank out onto the stage to take the heat and just stall and stall and stall. And Carl's supposed to be out there, but he doesn't want to go. And you can just see them like passing the buck. You know, nobody wants to have the hot potato. And this is the dance that the sharks will do is, you know, they always want to be seen in the best light, and then they'll throw each other under the bus. They don't care about, I mean, it's almost like it's just part of their love language as sharks is that I'm going to throw you under the bus. And the other one, yeah, I'm going to throw you under the bus. They just do that. No one supports each other. They hang each other out to dry. And then there's that moment when Logan is pissed mad. And he seems confused about Frank being in the room. Remember at the beginning of the series, Frank had just been re-entering. There had been a rift. Something happened that Frank got booted out of the crew. But with everything that Logan was going through, he kind of wanted Frank back for some reason. But when he doesn't have his cognitive faculties, he's saying, who was being mean to Frank? Was somebody mean to Frank? No one's allowed to. That's my guy. You know, I'm the only one that's allowed to be mean to Frank. And it's almost like he lost track of what the time where he was in time and not able to tell that, you know, he wasn't in the past whenever they had the rift that they had. And then also confused about how that whole thing even played out to begin with. Why did Frank go away? Is Frank mad at me? He says. So he, in his state of vulnerability, it seems like he's concerned about Frank and maybe bringing him back into the mix. He was looking for an opportunity to bring him back. He likes to be surrounded by people that he thinks that he can trust. And he also does that pattern where he pushes people away and ostracizes them and then reels them back in. So you can see him doing that with one of those sharks, Frank. And the piss mad scene, it sort of reveals that within Logan.
We also have Frank on stage at the shareholders meeting, and he finally gets the word to give the victory speech when Shiv saves the day, but Logan's pissed, and we get an actual mention of the shark's metaphor right here.
There's this moment where Shiv has successfully saved the deal, and they're having a little bit of a celebratory second, and she says, you know, can't we just savor the moment? And Logan says, there's blood in the water. The sharks are coming. We need to hustle on acquisitions. He's ready to move on to the very next thing of acquiring Gojo or anything else that can beef up his portfolio. But the sharks are coming. He knows this because he's a shark himself. It's what he would do. He would see someone in a weakened state and he would attack because predators use those things to their advantage.
It's nice to get the actual wildlife metaphor we're using in the show. So we are legitimate. Okay. So another big shark in the show who has an interesting role to play is Josh Aronson, who is on the board. He is a large stockholder and someone that the family has to get on side. Now, there's a division right now between Logan and Kendall, but Josh wants them to come to his private island to basically just talk about it to see if he can trust them.
Right. He is trying to figure out how the family's issues are going to affect the company. And that's how he's going to decide how he votes. They go kind of hiking around, walking around, and it doesn't really go well because Kendall and Logan just act like they're okay. But the second that they're alone, they're right back at each other's throats. And here we have another point where Logan's weakness is to not look weak. It becomes a weakness eventually, that you can't just own something that maybe you're not capable of, like walking for long periods of time. At his age, with his conditions, he should not have done that, but he didn't want to look weak. So he kept walking, even though he was, you know, starting to pass out and need support just walking. But I'm fine. And then in the end, how they act, how Kendall and Logan act between the two of them tells Josh Aronson, no, I don't think so. He decides that they are not stable enough for him to receive their votes. I almost wonder, did he lead them on this walk? to put them in a position of being in a vulnerable state, because they certainly did crumble. But that was a really great scene when they went to visit him on his private island.
It's also a callback to something we said earlier. The shark must always keep moving, and Logan won't stop. He has to keep moving. And so it's funny. It's like Logan will only stop when like his body fails him. That's the only time. And we see that a few times in the show, this being one of those moments. Another one of our sharks is the mother of Kendall, Shiv, and Roman. And her name is Caroline. And she's getting married this season. And that leads us to, meeting other sharks and them all gathering for a big wedding.
Right. And of course, people can't just gather genuinely to celebrate the wedding. The wedding becomes a playground for the sharks. Everyone is making moves at this wedding. Caroline is marrying someone that the kids had never even met. They didn't even know about the wedding. They heard about it through somebody else. And I wonder why she kept it a secret. I wonder why she didn't share that with them, or at least even let them meet the man that she's going to marry. My theory is that because she also is maneuvering and she doesn't want the kids to get in the way of what she's trying to achieve of her own goals. And as we start to get to know the guy she's going to marry, we can see why she wouldn't have told them, because he's obviously a slime bag.
He's much more interested in trying to promote himself than get married. Like the marriage for him is a move, right?
He is obsessed with Logan. If Logan's going to be there, when is Logan coming? Is Logan coming to the wedding? He wants to hold off. Don't start the wedding till Logan gets here. I mean, he really wants Logan to be there. He's so eager to meet Logan and Logan's kids. He's chomping at the bit. It's almost like the whole thing has been orchestrated just to get Logan and the kids to be a captive audience so he can pitch his schemes. So he proposes to their mother thinking, this is going to gather the sharks and give me access to them, and they'll hear me, and then I can swim with them. He wants to join up in their pack. So he meets with Logan, and the very first thing he does is he says he wants to have a discreet chat with him and his contact in the UK government. Peter is trying to climb a ladder of his own and is thinking that Logan has a contact that he could use, and he wants to use that contact to hook him up with powerful people he knows. And Peter says, I just want a chance to serve. He's trying to do a Tom here.
Yeah.
But he's premature with it. He hasn't really done his due diligence. He hasn't worked it the long game. He is coming in with a short game. He is outgunned, outmanned. It's almost pathetic. Like he doesn't really know who he's talking to. He just knows this guy's a billionaire. Like he doesn't really know a lot or something. But it's kind of pathetic how he is, just holding his hand out, hoping to get crumbs from Logan. Remember in the beginning of this episode, I said that there's an ecosystem and there are other creatures that live among the sharks. Some of them are sharks themselves, smaller, bigger, but there's also these other scavenger types that will pick up the morsels, pick up the pieces, and they live off of the crumbs of the shark. And I kind of see Peter as this opportunist who is not savvy. And Logan picks up on it immediately. He's saying he just wants a chance to serve, right? And Logan just walks away. Roman asks Logan what Peter wanted, and Logan said he wants me to get the dipshits in Downing Street to make him Lord fucking seat sniffer of pantyhose. He's right. Peter wanted him to contact someone to give Peter some sort of a title and power, and that would somehow help Logan. Like Logan needs help from Peter, and Logan is just like swats him away like a fly and just keeps right on walking. He's not there for the wedding. He's there because he's circling the wagons. He wants to keep his eye on everyone. He knows that everyone's going to be at the wedding, and he doesn't want moves to be made without him being there. He's not there to meet Peter. He's there to make sure that he's still got control over everyone.
You could describe Peter as a shark with no teeth, You could also describe him as one of those remora things, which are the little fish that like attach themselves to the shark and then just like hang out with sharks all day, but the shark doesn't even really know they're there, which is probably a good one, to call him as well. So another one of the big sharks in the show is who Logan's married to, and that is Marcia. Marcia's got quite a game. She has teeth, and they're scary.
Marcia has some big, scary teeth. She's one of my favorite sharks on the show because of her demeanor, the way that she conducts herself, the way that she interacts with people. She's very quiet and she doesn't call a lot of attention to herself, but she has a lot of power in the situation. And we can see this when Marcia rejoins the group. She's been estranged because Logan was paying Rhea special attention. We remember Rhea, who was a CEO for Nan Pierce's company. And, Rhea came over and started working with the enemy, which was Logan. And then Logan had the hots for her. Rhea was a shark from last season. Marcia said, screw you, I'm out of here. But now Logan needs Marcia. And this is one of the things that he was screaming at Hugo, Frank, and Carl about, like circling the wagons. We need Marcia here.
Because Logan is being accused of these crime type things that are, of moral turpitude. So he can't be away from his wife. His wife has to be there supporting him to show the glossy picture, right?
Right. And the crimes were against women. So the more women he can have around him, the more innocent that he thinks that he looks. He says, it's not a good time to be estranged. This is what Logan says to her. She says, yeah, well, you hurt me. Logan says, I'm not in the mood for apologizing. Wow. So, but he is in the mood to pay her bunches of money, we find. So he's not going to issue an actual apology for what he said or what he did, but he'll make it up to her some other way.
Let's make a deal.
Right.
That's what it's always about with him. It's not about admitting fault, assigning blame. It's about let's make a deal. How can we move on? Because this shark has to keep moving.
She calls him a fool. Can you imagine calling Logan a fool? She did. She said, you're a fool. He agrees that he can sometimes get distracted. This is the best he has to offer in terms of affection or acknowledgement. But Marcia knows she has all the leverage right now. And she reminds him by touching his jacket, sort of reminding him of her affection he's been missing out on. And then she goes in for the kill. These are transactional relationships, don't forget. She says, I would like to talk to someone. Meaning she has her own pitch to make. And Logan knows exactly what that means. She's like, I would like to talk to someone.
Why? She doesn't want to negotiate with him face to face. She wants to negotiate with someone else. So,
mm-hmm. But she kind of touches his shoulder as she says it. Like, would you like this back? If so, I need to have a talk. Marcia meets with Carolina and Hugo to discuss the narrative or the story that she'll be using to explain her absence and going over a contractual role of her returning to Logan's side. She is a much bigger shark than Hugo or Carolina. And then you pan back, the camera kind of pans back, and you can see that Logan is just in the very next room, and he can probably hear the whole thing. Marcia passes Logan's people over to her people, So now she doesn't need to be part of the conversation anymore. She gets right to work on, her job. The transaction is you're going to do what I want, and then I will play my part, play my role. So she, boom, heads straight to his side and starts rubbing his shoulders. Hugo talks about Logan's position is that nothing happened. When they were talking about the story, the narrative that they would use, Marcia says, I was humiliated. He was led by his prick. And Hugo, because he says, because we really would say that nothing happened. He's really trying to get her to say nothing happened. Then Marcia says, she's a whore and it's not my problem that she wouldn't finish him. whoa, damn, Marcia is throwing down. And you can just see how she's just fearless and knows her worth and knows that she is in a position of power and she's going to use that to her advantage. So right now, who's the bigger shark in the room? I don't know if it's Logan. It kind of seems like it's Marcia.
Marcia has supreme confidence, and I think that one of the things that makes her such a scary shark in the context of what we're talking about is she knows her role so well and can do it better than anybody. So it's like Logan, like you said, he knows her worth because as soon as a deal is made, she's right there doing her job, and she's willing to, in some ways, she's kind of like Tom because, she knows her role and she doesn't wriggle when it comes to once a deal's been struck. Now she's not going to wriggle anymore. Now, if he screws up again, there's going to be some wriggling, so.
If he messes up again, he's going to pay.
Yeah. Or he's going to be the one wriggling, probably so.
Right.
There is kind of a question, maybe, if you finish this series, maybe you'll have this question, maybe you won't, is that, was there anyone who was a bigger shark than Logan? Now, we talked about Marcia and how in some ways she can be, but there's one man that kind of like you would measure up to that specific statement, and that is Madsen, who is the owner and CEO of Gojo and is kind of another Logan. That's kind of what he is, but he's a much younger Logan who has a different kind of moxie.
And this role is played by Alexander Skarsgård, I just have to say, who's awesome, and I love him, and he's amazing, just as an actor. And
well, he might hear this, so I think so too.
Because he's watching, I just want him to know, I think you're awesome, Alexander Skarsgård. We send Roman to meet with Madsen. The idea here is that Roman would be able to interact with Madsen more on Madsen's level because they're of the same age, and same generation. And so maybe they would understand each other better, which is hilarious because in the end, that's not exactly how it goes. But Madsen shows up that way. He understands what's going on here, but we don't know that right away because he's getting along with Roman, and it seems like that they do like each other, and they're making crass jokes with each other, and they like each other's humor. And Matt's is sort of like dumbing himself down and almost acting like he's kind of a spoiled rich brat, and like that Roman is. He's really good at looking like, yeah, Roman, you and I have a lot talk about, and we can do this together, this deal.
He has a different way about him that is where he's a slimy chameleon, but in a way that's kind of like the actor plays it in a way where it's very difficult. That must have been difficult to do because he kind of, like you said, he plays dumb, but in a way where you can't read him. And that was one of the problems that everybody has with dealing with him in the show is you can't really read him and you're not really sure why he's doing the things that he's doing, but he's very sure on why he's doing the things he's doing.
When Roman goes to meet with Madsen, he seems to navigate Madsen well, like we said. And Roman seems pretty confident in his read on Madsen, like overly confident, like I've got this. And again, that's Madsen making him feel that way. And I don't think that Roman really knows who he's talking to. Madsen is in this beautiful villa, like gorgeous, picturesque, most amazing place on the water. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more beautiful place to live, or if he's staying there, I'm not sure, but this is where they're meeting. And I mean, he acts like he's sad. He's unimpressed with his own ability to create perfection. Like he's bored and this is boring, and he's kind of acting like that. And that's kind of how Roman acts. Roman kind of acts like this is all boring and you're not going to get too much out of me. I'm too lazy. I'm too cool. And that's what Madsen's doing. It's like, none of this is really all that special. He says he's now more interested in failure. Anyone can succeed, but can you fail? That's the question.
That's just stupid bullshit too. It's complete bullshit, which is why it's great.
Right. He's taking Roman on a little, ride here. And Roman's feeling him out about those weird tweets that he sent. You know, he sent out some strange tweets that are indecipherable right around the time of the wedding, and it got everyone's attention. And so that's why Roman's going to meet with him again. Initially, they met at Kendall's birthday party. But then now they're meeting because they did a deal, and now they're meeting just because of the tweets that he sent out. Well, Matsson knew what he was doing when he sent those tweets out. He knew it would get him attention, and he knew that it would cause them to come back to the table to negotiate again. Matsson pretty much confirms he was trying to affect the stock prices by sending the vague, indecipherable tweets. Roman attempts boundary setting with Matsson, hilarious, saying, look, hey, you know, if you're planning to blow up this deal because you're not really in love with it, just tell me. You know, like, we're close like this, just tell me. Like, he's not going to just tell him anything.
Roman's negotiating tactics are very poor. He doesn't know how to deal with Matsson because, as you said, he comes into this confident, but not in the way that Marsh is confident, because Roman's confidence constantly on this show gets shattered into a million pieces. So.
And Roman's so naive. Again, Matsson did this on purpose. He wants to renegotiate. He wants to pull everybody back at the table. And he says, I just want to get myself the best of everything. As he mopes around his $1 billion mansion, he wants the best of everything. He's currently standing in the best, and somehow it's not the best. He still needs more. Roman and Logan go to meet Matsson. Now Logan is on this visit, and Logan and Matsson kind of hit it off immediately. Now you start to see Matsson become Matsson. And right in front of Roman's eyes, this happens. How quickly things shift for poor Roman. So Matsson's being a different version of himself with Logan than he was with Roman. And he treats him with more respect. Logan came in and gets straight to the point. Are we doing this merger or what? Is what Logan says. And Matsson comes to life. He loves this. Logan says, what? Do you want me to like look around and go, look what a beautiful house you have? And Matsson's like, actually, no. That's boring.
In other words, don't try to kiss my ass. There's no point to that. They're cutting right through the bullshit, right? Which is something
right through the bullshit. They're not trying to, kiss each other's ass. It's just, let's do this deal. We're two sharks. Let's be sharks. And you just see Matsson like, yes.
That's refreshing for him because he's used to yes men surrounding him at all times, and so is Logan. And it's interesting how when someone stands up to Logan, like Tom, for example, he gains Logan's respect. And this is the same thing happening between two of the biggest sharks in the game.
When he says, no, I don't want you to look at my beautiful house and tell me how great it is, I get bored easily. Logan says, me too. And so they have a meeting of the minds, and Matsson gives it to him straight. I mean, straight talk, and nobody talks to Logan this way. He's exactly all the things Logan's children are not when it comes to having a presence. And I think that's starting to come together in Logan's mind too. Like, my kids are not at this level. This guy reminds me of me. My kids do not remind me of me ever.
They are not serious people. Matsson is serious people.
Logan has that presence. Matsson has a presence too. They're the biggest sharks. Matsson reads Logan's mind. Roman is sitting there and can't believe what he's hearing. I mean, like, he's like, what is happening? Like, this is not it's way out of his, he thought that he was the broker of this deal and that he was going to gain some sort of position as the result of it. But instead, he was used by Matsson and by his father. Then Matsson invites Logan to stay and do some asset swapping and side deals. Like little snacks, he says. We can do some other things, right? There's more we can talk about, right? Logan agrees. Then Matsson looks over at Roman as if to say, he needs to leave. Like, can you send the child home so the adults can talk? And immediately Logan says, you better get back, Roman. Your mom's getting married. In other words, the wedding's happening. You better get back for the wedding. Roman thinks he's joking, then is embarrassed when he realizes dad is not joking and makes some awkward jokes. Logan is seriously considering this merger as it seems like a sensible way out of the mess that he's in. That mess being that he doesn't think any of his staff or his kids are up to filling his shoes. They're not up to the task. It's dawning on him. He sees Mattson as someone who is up to the task. We'll see what shape that relationship takes in season 4.
Well, it's always a blast talking about Succession, especially with you, my sister.
Thank you for watching or listening. Bye-bye.